Everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube as well as on X. I am Bryson Carver, as always. I'll tell you what, man. This second round of the NBA playoffs has been off the charts good. Ironically, we're actually going to start with a blowout. Get to the Celtics and Knicks game 3 in just a moment. Also touch on a great game 4. What's been probably the best or most entertaining series thus far between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC stealing game 4 in Denver to tie that up 2-2. Get into that. And really it's going to be a bit of a negative segment because I have two major criticisms of the two best players in the series, and of course being the two MVP frontrunners. SGA for the Thunder, who I think will and should win the award, and the best player in the world in my mind, Nikola Jokic for the Denver Nuggets. Get into that in just in about 10 minutes or so. Also, my beloved Golden State Warriors. I hate to admit it, folks. It appears they might be making potentially their final stand tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 4 in the Bay Area. Get to that after our first break. Giannis, Shams report today, big report that Giannis is now open-minded about his future with the Milwaukee Bucks. Get into that. And at the end of today's show, got some NFL stuff. It was announced this morning that with the schedule coming out on Wednesday, you got Cowboys, Eagles to start this NFL season in week 1 in September. The defending champions taking on their biggest rival, the Dallas Cowboys. Why I am not ruling out the possibility of an old Dak Prescott upset. Get to that at the end of today's show. We'll, of course, touch on Pacers Cavs. I know that's probably the least profile second round series going on, but man, Indiana putting just giving it to Cleveland, a 40-point halftime lead. As a man who is not beloved in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, I can't say I'm devastated with the outcome of the series thus far. I think Indiana's going to wrap it up. It's part of the reason I picked them into the series. Injuries off, it's all of it. We'll get to all that later on today's show. But first, Celtics. After two brutal home losses, blowing 20-point leads in the second half in both of them, shooting poorly from 3 in both of them, which we'll get into in just a second, they go into Madison Square Garden. They're facing a 3-0 deficit and did what I think most of us kind of figured they would. Like, if they would have went down 3-0 to the Knicks, it would have been an absolute disaster. Like, disband the team, Boston franchise, all of it. But no, they go into New York. 115-93 is your final score. The Knicks shoot poorly from the field. Brunson was fine. He had 27 points, but wasn't terribly efficient. 9 of 21. Cat had a 21-point double-double, but again, inefficient on his part. And the Celtics really locked down on the defensive end. Here's what is, I think, the part of the Celtics that I talked about to start the season, I talked about right after Game 2 when they lost to the Knicks 91-90, when they just absolutely came apart in the final minutes. And why I said it would not be the worst thing in the world if the Knicks, because like I said, I don't hate the Celtics. I don't love the Celtics. I'm kind of in between. If they win a title, cool, good for them. If they don't, going about my daily life, right? I'm not a Lakers fan. I don't hate them. I'm not a Knicks fan, a Celtics fan. I'm not I don't root for Boston. But I do root for good basketball. And it's not that necessarily Game 3 is bad basketball. It's just that their style of play is not terribly entertaining. And for the record, it's not like they're the only team for this to be the case. The San Antonio Spurs had the greatest power forward ever, Tim Duncan. That was really the only interesting part of their dynasty. It was mostly just, mid-range jumpers, hard, tough-nosed defense, good coaching, not a lot of flash, not a lot of firepower. They could shoot the 3. There's no question about that. They were kind of one of the few teams early on that really understood, 3's more than 2. Maybe we should shoot more of them. And it helped get them a lot of championships, along with, obviously, the greatness of Duncan. But it wasn't that entertaining to watch. The most entertaining part of the Patriots dynasty was Brady and the chase for being the greatest player of all time. And Gronk was fun. And Edelman was... But the system, the do your job, the Belichick way, the Patriot way, whatever you want to call it, not that entertaining. I've said, the Kansas City Chiefs today are not the dynasty that the Patriots were. They're certainly more fun to watch. And then you add the entire storylines of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. It's fun. It's good television. This Boston team isn't necessarily that. It's not even a criticism of how good they are. I think they're the best team in the league. I've said I think they're the best roster. I think if at their best, they can be the best defensive league. They're the deepest team in the league. I mean, you look at down a box score, and it's like a classic Celtics win. Tatum gives you 22, 9, and 7. Al Horford gives you 15 in the starting role. Derek White gives you 17. Jaylen Brown gives you 19. You look down, Peyton Pritchard's your leading scorer, 6th man of the year. He shoots 5 for 10 from 3, has 23 points. It's just kind of a list of contributions. And it's one of the reasons I did think that they would win the series against the Knicks for a number of reasons. Obviously, absent even their regular season dominance is just the... First, Tibbs, we know, does not trust his bench. Boston loves to go to their bench. That's just going to be an ultimate mismatch for the Knicks. Now, I'm certainly not saying the tie is totally swung. Game 4 is tonight, and tips off at the time that this is airing. It tips off in about an hour and a half at Madison Square Garden. And, Stephen A. Smith said today, and I think he is potentially correct, the winner of Game 4 wins the series. If Boston ties this thing up 2-2, they go back home. I know the Celtics are a very mediocre home team in the playoffs and have been since 2022, but at the same time, you do sort of throw in the fact that, momentum's totally shifted. We know Boston's the better team, and really the difference in the series, and we can show you, literally has been how the Celtics shoot from three. We can show you the graphic here. Game 1, they shot. Again, this is what I'm talking about. It's not an entertaining way of play or style basketball. They shot 63s, guys. The Steph KD Warriors shot like 30. So let's chill out on that. But they shot 25% from three. Game 1, lost. Shot 25% from three on 20 fewer attempts. In Game 2, lost. Shot exactly as many threes they did in Game 2. The difference is they hit 10 more, shot 50%. Boom, they won by 22 points and were controlled for the overwhelming majority of that basketball game. That's really the formula for the Celtics. We shoot better than them. Done. We win. And a lot of that's the talent gap. A lot of that's the advantage. Now, I do think that it certainly feels like Indiana's going to beat Cleveland. And Indiana, for what it's worth, did, without Halliburton, give Boston some problems last year in the playoffs. They probably played them tighter than any team in the postseason a year ago, despite not being the best defense in the world. So that part's kind of fascinating. But I think for Boston right now, it's just a matter of, do we hit our threes? Are we efficient? They're going to play more close games, potentially even as soon as tonight. They'll certainly, I imagine, play some close games against the Pacers. And if they get to the finals, I think all four teams in the West can win the title. Certainly the Warriors can if Steph is healthy. They're going to be in close games there. That's kind of my one concern for Boston is that there's been some stats that come out that Tatum is statistically one of the worst clutch shooting players in the NBA. I mean, you look at the last few years, fourth quarter shooting, he shoots like in the 30s. He's like 38% fourth quarter shooter in the postseason since 2023. And so that is a major concern for Boston. And I think this has to be how they win their games in the postseason, is they just get on top, get hot shooting, and the other team says no mas by the end of the third quarter. And that's how they get the job done to win these games. If it gets tight, I don't know, Jalen Brunson's the best or second best clutch player in the league. I think Halliburton's got that title for now, guys, the way he's playing. 10 of 11 on game-winning, game-tying shots. That's unbelievable stuff. But Jalen Brunson is certainly not far behind, and some people might have him ahead. He was the Clutch Player of the Year award winner this season, and I think that's a major concern for the Celtics. If we get into tonight, the Knicks are like, man, we can really get a stranglehold here. Game 5 is a no-pressure situation. We can close them out in 6 back at home, and do we trust Jason Tatum in the final minutes? Not really. The numbers say we really shouldn't. So it's going to be a fun series the rest of the way. And I don't know if I had to pick a winner today. I would probably just go based on who I think is the better basketball team. I would go with Boston. But if it's a nip and tuck series the rest of the way, then I think you have to shift toward the Knicks. So it's really just a matter of the margin of these games. It feels like if Boston wins, they're going to blow the doors off the Knicks. I mean, you think about this. Boston's one win came by 22. The Knicks' 2 wins came by combined 4 rather. Like that shows when Boston's on their game, they're almost impossible to beat, certainly for a team that struggled against them all season in the Knicks. But if it's tight, I don't necessarily trust them. But kudos to the Celtics. They got the win. They shot well from 3. And Tatum was aggressive early. Tatum was impactful early. And Boston got out to that 16-point lead into the first quarter. And they never really looked back from there. But I'll tell you, what is the line? If I can pull this here, what's the line for Game 4 tonight in Madison Square Garden? Oh man, it was, I think, Celtics minus 5.5. It's gone up to minus 6.5. So Vegas is like Boston every game. I did think that they would cover in Game 3, or at least I was sort of feeling that way, the way it was trending, with this being a must-win situation for the Celtics. But here you go, favored minus 6.5 on the road at Madison Square Garden tonight, and that is going to be a good one. Mike Breen on the call for ESPN. Shout out to the great Mike Breen, who's arguably the best play-by-play man in sports right now. He is just dying, because the thing is that I found kind of funny is ESPN is doing the the Western Conference Finals this year, not the East. And so Mike Breen's like, man, I don't have much more opportunities to do Knicks games unless they make the finals. So I'm just saying, if it's tight and Bridges or Brunson or Hart or somebody hits a big shot, double bang might come out. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Knowing Mike Breen, that may come out. Also, too, and then we'll shift into Denver and OKC. You get the draft lottery tonight with Cooper Flagg. I'm looking at the odds right now provided by NBC Sports, and you've got the Jazz, Wizards, and Hornets tied in a three-way tie for 14% in terms of highest odds to land Cooper Flagg. Listen, of those, I'll say this. As a guy who lives in Tennessee, I would not be mad if he went to Charlotte. It gives an extra reason beyond LaMelo Ball to see the Hornets. Doesn't make them that much better of a team. I think Flagg's an excellent talent. I think LaMelo Ball is a really good highlight reel, and that's about it. But it's entertaining to watch, and the Hornets usually aren't that. The Wizards, I hope he doesn't go to that clown show. They're probably the worst organization in the league. And as for the Jazz, I don't know, they've been stockpiling picks. Hardy's a good coach. Wouldn't be the worst thing ever. You get Lauri Markkanen. It's a nice squad. Something that they can build for the future. And Flagg is an excellent talent, so I'll be interested to see where he goes tonight. I think that draft lottery is at 7 Eastern, so in a little less than an hour at the time that this show is airing. Once again, this is not a live show, so as I always say, if it's not live, if there's anything in the world of sports that has happened in between the time that I'm recording and between the time that this is airing, I'm aware of it, just not the time you're watching me. Shifting now, what has been blow for blow, probably the most entertaining series thus far, with Game 2 being a real exception. Man, okay, see, that was a bloodbath that they put on the Nuggets in Game 2. But Thunder and Nuggets, OKC wins 92-87 in Game 4 to even it up at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is at OKC. The Thunder are a big favorite. Vegas loves OKC in Game 5. They're favored -10.5. And we know about those Game 5s when it's 2-2, like something around like 82-ish% teams that are in a 2-2 series that win Game 5 usually go on to win the series, and just by the basic math makes sense. But what I gotta admit, I've found more, it's gonna sound terrible, I've found more negative than positive over the last couple of games with the two best players in the series. Start with SGA and Jokic. Let's start with Jokic. And I want to say this at the front. I think he is not just the best player in the world, but the best player in the world by a pretty comfortable margin. I think Giannis, who we'll get into later with the newest report by Shams, I think Giannis is a comfortable number 2, and he's a pretty good distance behind Jokic. He just can't do the things Jokic can do. As he's not a great defensive player. Outside of that, there's really not a weakness in his offensive game. With that being said, he has had a real slump as of late. Okay, so if you look back to the Clippers series, okay, Game 5 against the LA Clippers, Denver won that game. That was the Game 5, went up 3-2. Jokic had a triple-double, but 4 of 13 shooting, had 13 points. Now he gave you 10 and 12 aside from that. So again, great players still find a way to make an impact, but other than that, he didn't really do much. Then you go to the Game 7 against the Clippers. That was kind of a collaborative team effort by the Nuggets, but he had 16 in that game. Okay, Game 1 against OKC, he was off the charts great. I thought it was honestly one of the best games of his career. Jokic gave you 42, 22, and 6. He was unbelievable. Game 2 against OKC, listen, it's kind of a situation where Thunder desperate, Nuggets got home court, but he had 17 points. And then in Game 3 at home, the Nuggets still find a way to win that game in overtime because of the third clutchest player in these playoffs, Mr. Aaron Gordon, hitting big-time shots back and forth. But if we can pull up Jokic's numbers, had 20 on 8 of 25 from the field, 0 for 10 from three-point range. And then in Game 4 yesterday, in a spot where the Nuggets can really grab a stranglehold of the series, you're up 3-1. I don't think OKC's coming back from that deficit on you. And Jokic in that game has 27 on 22 shots. He goes 7 of 22 from the field, 2 of 8 from three-point range, and only 3 assists, which is criminally low for a guy to average a triple-double this regular season. So I've heard some say like, oh, he's running out of gas. Maybe. I'll have to say this. Based on what I've seen from Denver out of this playoffs, because I thought they were not necessarily drawing dead just because their matchup was the Clippers, and I did pick the Clippers, but we know playoff Harden, Kawhi's health, like that, they could obviously win that series, and they did win that series. But the firing of Malone, they finished the season 3-0, but they didn't play that well second half of the year. And Jamal Murray, what kind of health is he in? Is he in good shape? The depth, all of it, not that good of a defense. And yet here they are, 2 wins away from a second conference finals in 3 years. Aaron Gordon has had the best playoffs of his career, easily. Jamal Murray, who wasn't great in game 4 by any stretch of the imagination, but Jamal Murray's hit some big shots these playoffs, had the big 40-burger in game 5 against the Clippers. Christian Brown has stepped up. Like, Jokic has gotten the necessary help. And more times than not, in the last 8 games, or 7 games rather, he hasn't necessarily held up his end of the bargain. Now, game 1 against OKC, he was unbelievable. Like I said, one of the greatest games of his career. But the rest, 3 assists. Denver, folks, had 8 points in the first quarter. 8 points at home. That altitude. It's one of the biggest home court advantages in the league. 8 points in the first quarter. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't tell which offense was worse, the Denver Nuggets or the Colorado Rockies. Yikes. And so it was disastrous. I still think OKC is going to win the series. I don't feel great about that, in large part for the reasons I said. I did not think OKC would win the West, win the title, any of it. Not just the youth and inexperience. If OKC wins the title this year, they'd be the youngest champion, I think, in NBA history. I think the youngest to this point is the 77 Blazers, led by the late, great Bill Walton. I think they would eclipse that in terms of youth. Obviously, I don't trust them for that regard because that's kind of an age-old rule in the playoffs. Add that to the list, right? Officials let you play more physically in the playoffs. Bench players usually step up more at home than on the road in the playoffs, and young teams usually don't go too deep in the postseason. But the problem with OKC, and it can be addressed, like, it's not like this is a situation where there's a long, rough playoff track history for this player. He actually was quite good in the playoffs a year ago. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So, again, I prefaced my Jokic criticism on the front end by saying, and I believe this to my core, he's the best player in the world by comfortable margin. I think SGA is the MVP of the league this year. And for all the Denver fans and the Jokic fans get mad at me, folks, there is a difference in MVP and best player in the world. MVP is just that particular season. From what I saw, based on an OKC roster that is very good, but I don't think as good as Boston's roster. I don't think it's as deep as, I know they're down 3-1, but Cleveland, the team is up 3-1 in Cleveland. I don't think they're as deep as Indiana. Frankly, I don't think they have the roster of Golden State right now, if Steph Curry is healthy. And he took them to 68 wins, averaged 30 a game, led the league in scoring, was insanely efficient, shot over 50% from the field as a guard. It's like I did a segment on Mahomes when he wasn't a Pro Bowler. I was like, okay, I get Joe Burrow at better numbers, but 15 winning quarterbacks are almost a shoo-in to make the Pro Bowl. Like, historically speaking, it's weird Mahomes didn't make it. It's weird for SGA, historically speaking, to be the leader of a 68-win team and not win MVP. It just hasn't happened very much in NBA history where that has not been the case. And so give SGA, love where it's due. The problem is there's really two. So, and let me make sure I'm getting this right here. In this postseason, he's actually been pretty good. Actually really good. 27, 6-6. But hasn't been terribly efficient from the field at all. 43%. Compare that to his regular season, 51%. And the main issue with SGA, and I know it's a meme on the internet, and sometimes memes are to take a half truth and then they try and develop into a full truth where it's like, you're not necessarily presenting the proper context for this. SGA is a great player with a really skilled offensive game. You don't shoot 51% for the field and average over 30 a game if you're not incredibly skilled. Get to your spot, the mid-range, all of it. I'll be kind because I like SGA. I'll say he's a first cousin of James Harden in this regard, in that he plays a very gimmicky offensive game. End of game 3. OKC looks like they're going to win game 3, hang on, go up 2-1. And listen, if you add yesterday's result, they'd be up 3-1, and OKC's going to the conference finals. Denver's not coming back from that. And tie game, Aaron Gordon, or you're up 3, Aaron Gordon, it's a massive shot. Oh my gosh, the place is going crazy. And SGA, the MVP, the guy who I think should be the MVP of the league, has the ball in his hands. Tie game, opportunity to win it. And he drives to the basket. And he tries to, we don't have the rights to show the footage, unfortunately, without copyright, but SGA tries to rip through, throw his body into a guy with the game on the line. Folks, this is, I talk about the Celtics not playing an entertaining brand of basketball. They're playing within the rules. You can shoot as many threes as you want. It feels like this guy, not quite to the extent of Harden, but a first cousin of it. And Trae Young was bad about this for a while, and still to a degree is, where it is, I am trying to game the system. I am trying to gain an advantage that probably doesn't necessarily play by the rules and try and bait the officials or bait a player into a foul that wasn't by the letter of the law really that much of a foul, but I'm hoping I can get it to go. But it's the playoffs, and we've seen a level of physicality. Listen, we know the playoffs are inherently more physical than the regular season, in large part just because the officials let them, in a large part, postseason. It's more desperation. And I think it is there again, there's a level of cheating's not the right word to use. We've seen cheating in sports, and this is not it. He's allowed to do this, but it partly shows, with his inefficiency. He's averaging 27 a game, which is less than his regular season, and his efficiency's been down. And so, listen, I've heard folks compare him like he's the modern day, far lesser equivalent, but his game is somewhat similar from a mid-range perspective to a Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant could get to the line. Kobe Bryant could draw foul calls. Kobe Bryant was not gimmicky with how he got to the line in the way Harden was and the way the SGA is. And so, listen, I still think OKC won the series. I don't necessarily trust them in close games. Again, similar to what I said with the Celtics. Not quite to the degree I would say with the Celtics, because they did win a close game yesterday, literally on the road in Denver. If they play Minnesota, and they're more talented than Minnesota, but man, there's a game tie on the line. Who you trust more, SGA or Ant? I mean, the Thunder played less clutch games than anybody this regular season. Now, some of that's just because they were the best regular season team. They won 68 games. A lot of that, you just give them credit. And a lot of it is, okay, postseason, you're not going to blow everybody out. This isn't Memphis, who you basically, that might as well have just been a first-round bye. The Grizzlies are far and away the worst team in the playoffs. Once Ja went out, forget about it. This isn't going to be Memphis where you can just cruise through. This is a champion in Denver. And the next round, you either, if the Warriors get Steph back, you get forget a champion, a dynasty in Golden State, or a man in Anthony Edwards who is hungry to be the face of the NBA. He may not say he is, but his actions in his play would say otherwise. And I just don't think this team's capable of doing it. I don't trust Jalen Williams on a consistent night or basis. I don't trust Chet Holmgren on a consistent basis. And I mean, Hartenstein had a brutal game 3. I don't trust him against, some of the other bigs he could face, especially if they were to face in Minnesota with Gobert and Naz Reid and all these guys. So that's going to be a problem for the Thunder. But again, I hate to come out of what has been a great series thus far with 2 negatives on the 2 main attractions of the series, but Jokic is in a bad slump and is not playing his best basketball right now when his teammates are mostly stepping up. And SGA, it's that same, again, gimmicky offensive game that doesn't really translate come playoff time in the long run. So we'll see how it works out. By the way, it's not to say SGA can't. It's not like he's not young enough to eliminate from his game. Hopefully, at some point, but that will not work. I mean, you name the titles that Bron or MJ, Magic, Kareem, Steph. Name the titles that those guys won by with their game partly being, I'm just going to throw my body into somebody and try and get to the free throw line. Not really it. Hitting clutch free throws, yes. Not, again, trying to game the system. That is not the way to do it. You don't win championships by doing that. So there you go. We're going to go to a 1-minute break. When we come back, I'm a little nervous, guys. I'm not going to lie. Golden State Warriors, my beloved Golden State Warriors, who I guaranteed, when healthy, would win the title. Season's on the brink tonight. There's no question about that. Get into that and how the Warriors can tie this up 2-2 tonight after the break. Welcome back to Carving It Up. So it's funny. Coming into this season, my mindset with the Golden State Warriors was pretty simple. I thought the moves that Mike Dunleavy Jr. made in the offseason were productive. I thought as painful as it was to let Klay Thompson go at the price of which he was commanding, not necessarily, it just straight up did not match his play, his consistency, and there was obviously a clear drop-off post-injuries, which sucks for Klay, sucks for the Warriors, sucks for everybody. And I was one of the few that was okay with the Warriors moving on from Klay. And I love the moves bringing in Buddy Hield. And you have Brandon Podziemski coming back, and you have Trey Jackson-Davis, and Quentin Post has been a revelation for Golden State, and Gary Payton, all the role players we know and love. But there was no chance that this team could win a title, as great as Steph Curry still is. There was no chance that this team could win a title this season if Steph Curry did not have a running mate, a number 2 all-star level co-star next to him, and they were drawing dead. They were 500, 10, 11 seed, play-in at best, and then they trade for Jimmy Butler. The season turns around completely. They're one of the best teams in the league in that stretch. They're the best defense in basketball in that stretch. And, I thought I heard something through my headphones on this. And so it shifts to today. Game 4. Down 2-1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Game tips off at about 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time in the Bay Area at the Chase Center. And there's no other way to say it other than this is the Warriors' final stand. If they lose this basketball game, barring a miraculous Steph Curry return in Game 5, which I'm not terribly confident is going to happen, win or lose, their season is done. And that really hurts as a Warriors fan. I shouldn't say it hurts because the game hasn't been played yet. I think what is key for the Warriors in Game 4, I think there's a... Listen, I've said before, I have sources in the Bay Area that are close to the team, and they seem pretty confident that Steph probably will be back for a Game 6 should there be a Game 6. They also seem, and not just beyond them, but reading the tea leaves in the Warriors, what does make me feel better is there seems to be an odd confidence about this team. Maybe it's delusion. I don't know. Maybe it's the heart of a champion. But I've watched a lot of Steve Kerr press conferences. He doesn't mince words. He's a no BS guy. He didn't seem terribly bothered. He seemed to be in pretty good spirits. So did Jimmy. Well, Jimmy Butler's always in good spirits at the game. Jimmy Butler's always got the utmost confidence. It feels like guarantees wins every other game. But the vibe in Golden State was like, okay, we're good. And I think a lot of reasons for that is in Game 3, they took the Timberwolves' best punch. Now they lost. They kind of came apart down the stretch, couldn't finish inside, couldn't get stops down the stretch. I thought that was about the best the Timberwolves could have given the Warriors, and they lost by 5. Now, they lost. They're in a tough spot tonight where they have to win because, listen, if it's 3-1 going back to Game 5 in Minnesota, Steph's not there, they're going to lose. I'm sorry, they're going to lose. Minnesota's not going to play with the opportunity like, man, if we lose this game, Steph's back for Game 6, that's back at home, we could blow through and lead. They're not playing with that. Anthony Edwards certainly isn't. But in Game 3, everybody was good for Minnesota. Ant gave you 36. He's a great player. You're going to expect him to be great. Julius Randle, 24, 12, and 10. Gave you a triple-double. I don't think that's happening in Game 4. Jaden McDaniels, 15. Okay, Rudy Gobert, 13 rebounds. Look down the list. Naz Reid, 3 for 3 from three-point range. All the good players for the Timberwolves stepped up. All of them were good, despite what was a pretty good defensive game from the Warriors. And that was kind of the one of the few silver linings I saw from the Steph injury is part of the reason they can survive is they were a great team with Steph on the floor. And Steph, I've always said, is not – people act like he's like Luka on defense. Well, Steph tries on defense, and Steph can defend. He's gotten game-winning steals and blocks even in his career, even in the playoffs. He's obviously not a great defender. Be it Podziemski, be it Gary Payton II, that's going to be an upgrade on that end of the floor. Offensively, that's a whole different ballgame, as we know. The key for the Warriors, they obviously got to continue to play well on the defensive end, get stops down the stretch of games. I think Kerr's been really good with his rotations. I got to give love where it's due because Jimmy Butler was playoff Jimmy. I called him out after Game 2. I needed to see a level of aggressiveness that I did not see in that Game 2 with him being playoff Jimmy. I needed to see that. He had 13 shots in Game 2, doubled that to 26 in Game 3. Now, he was 1 of 7 in the fourth quarter, but he was really efficient before that, drove to the basket, did his thing. And so I think Jimmy's going to step up tonight. It's playoff Jimmy. He's going to step up. I think probably the greatest sign for the Warriors that they can, if Steph comes back, folks, if Steph comes back fully healthy, I'm not sure this Timberwolves team has a chance. And I'm saying that if the T-Wolves are up 3-2. I'm dead serious. Jonathan Kuminga has been awesome the last 2 games. I cannot believe I'm saying those words because he's been so inconsistent. He's a twitchy athlete. He's like, the potential's there. I believed in Kuminga, and then I kind of lost belief after the Jimmy trade, and Kuminga's minutes got cut. And when he did play, he wasn't very good. He kind of looked lost out there. He starts 8 for 8 from the field from game 2, says after the game that I have regained my confidence, and then goes out there, we can show you the numbers, and backs it up. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, shoots 11 of 18 for the field. How about 3 for 4 from 3 for Kuminga? And is the only Warrior, make sure I get this right, looking at the stat sheet here, only Warrior to be a plus on the team. He's a +5 when he was on the floor. So you have to imagine, will Steve Kerr keep him coming off the bench? It seemed to work. My guess is he will, or will he start him to try and get a good tempo going offensively as opposed to the stagnant game that the Warriors seem to be playing? They didn't hit a 3 in the first half and still led. And so the Kuminga thing has been great. Like I said after game 2, if he was correct in that, hey, I think I've got my confidence back, I'm like, okay, that has to be good. But the key for the Warriors to win game 4, the key for the Warriors to extend championship hopes, the key for the Warriors to give the best player on this team, one of the greatest players of all time, a man who with the title could cement himself as the greatest point guard in the history of the game. I'm talking, of course, about Steph Curry. The way for the Warriors to win this game, tie it up at 2-2, and give themselves an opportunity moving forward to keep those title hopes alive. I trust Jimmy Butler. I can't believe I'm saying this, I kind of trust Jonathan Kuminga. The other guys, Podziemski, Moody, are going to have to be able to gotta hit perimeter shots when they get open looks. But the key to make every aspect of this work, Draymond Green. I'm going to look dead in the camera. I'm not so sure Draymond is necessarily going to see this, but if people around him see this, great. Send it to Draymond, okay? I'm trying to do what I can to help the guy. Draymond Green. I have said, and I stand by this 10 toes down. We know Steph's the most important part of the Warriors dynasty. That goes without saying. But for all the important keys and cogs that have went into this decade-long run, the coach, Steve Kerr, the other splash brother, Klay Thompson, role guys who've been finals MVPs like Andre Iguodala, Kevin Durant, who was there for a 3-year stretch and was awesome. All of those different components and pieces. The second most important part of this dynasty has been you, my friend. It has been Draymond Green, a guy who, as far as I'm concerned, should be a 4-time Defensive Player of the Award winner. He is the best defender, clearly, of this generation. Can guard 1 through 5 at an A+ level, and offensively is indispensable. His mental telepathy with Steph, the way he gets other guys involved, scoring at times when he gets the opportunity, the passing, all of it. And in the last 2 games without Steph Curry, we simply have not seen that Draymond Green, and we can show you the numbers. Draymond, you haven't been that good, my man. And I know he's never been a big stat sheet guy. They don't, necessarily. It doesn't necessarily reflect his impact on the floor. But in this case, it kind of does. 5 points, 4 assists. Draymond Green. 4 assists? You better than that, bruh. And then you consider the 3 rebounds, which Draymond could be a triple-double any given night. And for the record, the rebounds, that's down 2.6 from his, 3.1 for his regular season average, and the assists are down 1 from his regular season average. 28% from the field, 14% from three-point range. For a guy who, by the way, has improved his three-point shot, shot 32% in the regular season. That's better than 14, obviously. Averages about 3.5 fouls a game, fouled out at a brutal time for the Warriors in the middle of the fourth quarter, and I feel like the game kind of turned on that point. After Draymond fouled out, Anthony Edwards went for 13. Draymond has a defensive rating of 116.8. Folks, that is 8 points higher than his regular season average. That is atrocious. And combined, he has been a -8 on the floor in games 2 and 3. Draymond Green. You better than this, my guy. This part of the reason I thought that this was a mismatch for the Timberwolves coming in, obviously with a healthy Steph Curry, is because of you. And because of your matchup against a nemesis of yours, Rudy Gobert, who's been fine in the series, hasn't been great, hasn't been bad. But it's up to you not just to neutralize him on the offensive end, which you mostly have done. It doesn't take much to neutralize him on the offensive end. But you got to get yours offensively against him. You did in game 1. You hit 4 threes in the second quarter. right? You are the key. If Rudy Gobert's not in the paint as a rim protector, he's a 0 on the floor. He's not an offensive impact. He doesn't give you any offensive impact except on occasional putbacks. And defensively, he's guarding the perimeter. That's not Rudy Gobert's game. It's why he should not have 4 or, frankly, any Defensive Player of the Year awards. It is up to you to neutralize him. Season's on the line tonight, my man. And again, from what I've been told, the chances Steph comes back in Game 5 are next to nothing. The chance he comes back in Game 6, where oddly, thankfully for the Warriors, but oddly, there's 3 off days in between 5 and 6. Game 5 is going to be on Wednesday. Game 6 is not until Sunday, and so the big three day gap to give Steph what would be in total 12 days post hamstring strain. It's up to you. Jimmy's going to do his thing. I'm confident in that. Jimmy knows the significance of this game. I think Kuminga is playing with a free-flowing confidence that I have not seen him play with as a Warrior. I've loved what I've seen from Kuminga. We know the other guys, Buddy Hield, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody. They got to hit perimeter shots. But Draymond is the key to unlocking. And Draymond, you got to stay on the floor. Draymond, you got to stay out of technical trouble as well. You have 5 Ts. 2 more Ts. Draymond suspended for a game. These playoffs. You've got to bring that edge. You can't bring it over the line. Because especially with Steph, they need you. Without Steph, you're indispensable, even more so. So this has to be the Draymond Green game tonight. For the record, Game 4 of the last series against Houston was the Draymond Green game. Jimmy Butler hit the free throw. Steph hit a shot late. That was Draymond. He was in foul trouble, but when the game was on the line, the best player on the Houston Rockets, Alperen Sengun, Draymond said, I got you one-on-one. I don't need help. I'm going to stop him. We're going to win this basketball game, and that's exactly what he did. We're going to need that Draymond in Game 4. So, again, coming into early March, I guess it was early March, I said, based on what I'd seen in the month that the Warriors had played with Jimmy Butler, I said on this show, 10 toes down, I full-blown guaranteed that the Golden State Warriors will win the 2025 NBA title. If healthy, obviously. Obviously threw in the caveat, so if they go out in 5 because Steph Curry played 13 minutes, feel free to rip me. I think it would, feel free. But if they lose tonight, it's over. There's no other way around it. It's over. Tie the series up 2-2. Game 5, I feel like is oddly like a no-pressure situation. If you win that, oh my gosh. But Game 4, season on the line, lockdown defense, which they're fully capable of. They've been the best defense in basketball since Jimmy Butler got there. Playoff Jimmy's got to do his thing, got to be better in the fourth quarter, got to get stops in the fourth quarter. And Draymond Green, you got to play your A-plus game, my man. And I think you're going to do it. So I think the Warriors will win tonight, tie it up 2-2. Game 5, they probably lose. And then you get the baddest man in the history of the game of basketball, Chef Curry, for Game 6 and for Game 7. So that's what I'm feeling. But they have to win tonight because I don't think they're winning Game 5 in Minnesota without Steph. Down 3-1 or even tied 2-2. Shifting now to a guy who got knocked out of the playoffs but is nonetheless the most fascinating domino of this offseason. And that's not Kevin Durant, who is the second biggest domino. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I've said many times. I said early in the show, I think is the second best player in the NBA, second best player in all the world behind Nikola Jokic. I mean, just for context, Giannis the last couple of years has averaged 30, 11, and 6, 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. That has been done one time in NBA history, and it was by a guy who was a champion with the Bucks, although he didn't do this with the Bucks, Oscar Robertson, back in 1962. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Giannis twice, Oscar Robertson. That's the list. That's how great that this guy is. And by the way, he's doing it, shooting 60+% from the field. The guy's unreal. Playing the best basketball of his career the last 3 years. And the Bucks have 4 playoff wins. To show for it, 0 playoff series wins. Well, Shams Charania comes out this morning with the report that Giannis Antetokounmpo is open-minded. Matter of fact, let's make sure we get the tweet right. Because I want to make sure we don't. Yeah, here it is. 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo has not made any firm decisions, but as for the first time in his career, he is open-minded about whether his best fit is remaining in Milwaukee or playing elsewhere, league sources told ESPN. So that is the report from Shams. So I don't think this comes as much of a surprise. I'm not certain Giannis, I've said this, I'm not certain he gets dealt during the offseason. I wouldn't be shocked if this actually goes down to the deadline if Giannis is like, you know what? Last time in Milwaukee, let's play some good basketball. It'd be a weird vibe around the team because everyone knows he's probably gone, so maybe he has to be dealt during the offseason. I don't know. But it's a train to nowhere in Milwaukee right now. Dame, and that was even if Dame was healthy. But Dame, knock on wood for him, God bless him. The Achilles injury, it's the worst injury a basketball player can suffer. A speedy recovery for him. But he's not going to be available to play in all likelihood until October of 2026. It's a year and a half away, folks. What are the Bucks going to be next year? Bobby Portis or Kyle Kuzma as the second best player. Brook Lopez, I think, is 37. He's probably gone after this year anyway. You don't have any control of your draft picks for like the next half decade. Like they're just in bad shape. They're a top heavy roster as it pertains to payroll. The coach, none of us really believe in Doc Rivers. Like they're just kind of a mess right now who happen to be led by an all-time great player in Giannis. And so I've said before, if Giannis wanted to stay in Milwaukee just for loyalty to the city, they gave me a chance. I won a title here. Great. And I would have no problem with that. You got your title. You got your MVPs. Let's go dominate, put up great numbers. Maybe in 2 to 3 years, we can build something that resembles a certain level of contender. Doubt it. But Giannis, knowing the guy he is, knowing the competitor that he is, and I think it's at least reference in the terminology or the wording, the verbiage of Shams Charania's report. Giannis is, just now turned 30 years old, or 30 years old. You're 30 years old recently. He wants to compete for a title. There's two teams that I think have been discussed, and one that I think is going to pull it off as far as the most likely destination for Giannis. I know people have brought up the Nets. I know that they have the package. I would think that the Bucks would do good business by Giannis, considering that he's not the greatest player to ever play for the Bucks. That's obviously Kareem, but he's the greatest start to finish Buck, even over Kareem, because Kareem won majority of his MVPs, I believe, with the Lakers after that trade in the mid-'70s. So, but either way, do good business. If we have a good package, you have to do what's in the best interest of the team, obviously. But if Giannis doesn't want to go to Brooklyn, I'll ship him to Brooklyn. Like, there's other teams that can give you good packages. This is Giannis we're talking about. So I don't, unless Giannis wants to play for the Nets, which if he wants to compete for a title, that ain't your team. Two teams can do it today. If the trade happens today, bam, they're a contender in the Western Conference. First is the Houston Rockets. I think they would have to include Alperen Sengun in that package. I get it. Rockets fans are like, darn it, man, he's 22. He's an all-star. You want us to trade him now? I would be more comfortable. And listen, I could be wrong, but I think I'll be proven right in the long run on this. And it's great. And I think Sengun's great. It's not even a knock on Sengun. I think you would be better served moving Sengun than moving Amen Thompson. I've said before, that kid's talent, that kid's ceiling is off the charts. When he develops a consistent offensive game to go along with his defense, go along with all the little things he does, oh my gosh. Like that kid's going to be awesome. Put together a package, Sengun. You like to ship the guy who wears number 9 for them who isn't very good. I'll say his name, fine. He's eliminated for the playoffs. Dylan Brooks. You can ship him. He doesn't impact winning in any way, shape, or form with the Rockets, Grizzlies, anybody. Ship him to Milwaukee. You're going to have to include some draft picks in there, but it's going to have to be Sengun or Amen Thompson, and I feel more confident that Amen Thompson can be the best or second best player on a champion than I feel that way with Sengun. We know, obviously, Giannis would be your lead dog. And if they make that happen, attach a bunch of draft picks, the Rockets might very well potentially be the favorites to win the West next year. Giannis, Amen Thompson, depending on the other guys that they might have, right? Apparently, according to reports, they believe in Jalen Green. They're not going to move Jalen Green for Devin Booker. Okay, Jalen Green's got a lot of developing to do with his offensive game, but if they believe in him, okay, that's your number 3 option now, and it could be a really solid team next year. The team I've said from the jump, I think, is going to make the deal. I think it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'll say it on the record. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I think Giannis will be a San Antonio Spur. They've got plenty of draft capital to give up. R.C. Buford, one of the better GMs in the league, one of the better basketball executives in the league. Got plenty of draft capital. You could probably attach like a Harrison Barnes, who's a good starter, to that package. And you you will have to add Stephon Castle at deal. And I get it. I'm as big of a Stephon Castle as anybody. He was a more than deserving rookie of the year. I loved him at UConn. I think that kid is going to be a special player in the league. Yeah, I think he's already showing signs of it. But this is Giannis we're talking about. And again, These deals are all about upside. Who's going to win in the long run? Stephon Castle in Milwaukee. Heck, Stephon Castle in San Antonio. He's good, has potential to be great. Does he fit better with Wemby and with De'Aaron Fox than Giannis does? Because if you add Giannis and Antetokounmpo, he's your best player. Wemby's your 2. Any team with De'Aaron Fox is their 3rd best player. A guy who 2 years ago led the Sacramento Kings to the 3 seed and almost knocked out the defending champion Warriors in the first round. That a clutch player of the year award winner. That guy's your 3rd best player. With Wemby, who hasn't sniffed his ceiling yet and is already a top 15 player in the league today, that's terrifying. Defensively, who's going to score on those guys? Offensively, lob threat and Giannis, who can also get to the rim at will. Wemby can shoot from the perimeter, can get to the rim at will. Fox is going to set them up. He can get his own shots from the mid-range. That is a team that will compete for titles for the next 5 years. That's a team that in the next 5 years could win 2, maybe 3 championships. I'm dead serious. And so I think, listen, now Greg Popovich, God bless him, is now in the front office. He's no longer the coach. He's in the front office now, so he'll obviously have a say. I think they're going to pull this off. I think they've got draft capital. I think they've got Stephon Castle, who could be the main kind of guy in that deal. Harrison Barnes, kind of, you can attach him. I think this would be a classic example of, man, the great organizations just find a way, right? When it came to time with the Spurs, we're like, we're not a playoff team. Let's just kind of tear it down the seams. There's this kid in France who's amazing. We may have a chance to get him. Oh my gosh, we got him. He's just as good as advertised, maybe even better already. And now with all those assets, all that capital, we can get the 2nd best player in the NBA today. I think they're going to make it happen. If the Rockets make it happen, I won't be shocked. If the Nets do, I'll be a little shocked just because I have to imagine Giannis would have some say into the Nets can't compete for a title. Like, come on. Like, Nick Claxton and Cam Thomas. Like, I mean, nice players, but nothing that's going to blow your socks off. Like, it's not going to compete for a title. Playoff team, probably, just because you have Giannis. But the Nets aren't a terribly well-run franchise. The Spurs are maybe the best-run franchise in the NBA, potentially. I think that's your team. I think Giannis, I'll say it now, before the end of this offseason, will be a San Antonio Spurs. And I think that will leave the Rockets with a pretty good consolation prize in Kevin Durant. I think Miami could go after KD as well. That'll be a different conversation. We'll save those more for post-finals once the offseason's over. But listen, the Shams reported it. It's kind of official now. It's not an official, hey, Giannis asked out of Milwaukee, but Giannis would like to explore the waters. Let's put it that way. So we'll see what happens. Last topic of the day before we get out of here. Actually, before we get to that, just super fast, the Pacers Cavs series. It's the only one we haven't touched on so far, and I feel like it feels like we're always like undercutting the Pacers because they never won a title. They're not that big, marketable, sexy franchise, but 4 seed, 50 wins. I said this before the series. Made the conference finals last year. Like I said, I kicked myself for picking Milwaukee over the Pacers because obviously Giannis is the best player in that series. But on the other side of the coin, I don't know. Indiana's way deeper, has a way better coach. Halliburton's the clutchest player in the NBA currently today. The offense is just seamless. They shoot the lights out of the basketball. And again, they made a conference finals last year. And without Halliburton, pushed Boston. We got swept, I get it, but they pushed the Celtics. They're down. They're up now 3-1. Absolutely smoked the Cavs yesterday. They were up in the first half by 40 points and 41 points to be exact, and ended up winning the game 129-109. So listen, anytime Cleveland goes down in any sense, I will say Donovan Mitchell got hurt in this game, so prayers for a speedy recovery. Hopefully, I don't know what the status for him is now at the time of this recording. It's about 1 p.m. Eastern now. I don't know what his status is. Hopefully, he can be able to come back before the next game, before Game 5, which I think is tomorrow night, to help the Cavs stave off elimination. But that aside, Cleveland getting eliminated in any sport, I am not irritated at that. I will say just that as an aside. But for the Pacers, Carlisle's an excellent coach, like I said earlier. What's funny is in this game, what's funny about Halliburton is he can have these like 12-point games, But because they're so darn deep, they can just beat you so many different ways. I mean, Halliburton in this game, 3 for 8, 11 points. 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Like, it was fine. I mean, not great. It's fine. By star/superstar status, not the best. But when you look down the roster, Miles Turner gave you 20. Pascal Siakam gave you 21. Obi Toppin gave you 20. Shepherd gave you 14. TJ McConnell gave you 13. The Pacers shot 42% from 3 in this game, 52% of the field, scored 129 at home. That's just hard to beat. And what's funny is, too, I look at the odds for Game 5. Cavs are a 7.5-point favorite. So that tells me Vegas probably thinks Donovan Mitchell's back for Game 5, which we hope obviously is the case. But that appears to be what it's going to be for them. So I don't know. Should I pick the Pacers to go ahead and gentleman sweep it? I'll say just out of pure desperation, Cleveland wins Game 5. I don't know if I love -7.5, but the Pacers will wrap it up in Game 6. I had Pacers in 7 before the series, winning a Game 7 at Cleveland. I think at this point now at 3-1, it's going to be Pacers in 6. But this has been, I'm not that shocked. Man, I'm a little surprised that it's 3-1 Pacers, but I'm not shocked that the series has gone the way it's gone, because I just thought with the injuries to Cleveland, with the lack of playoff experience relative to Indiana, who went a step further in the playoffs a year ago, who have, in my mind, respect to Donovan Mitchell, but the best player in the series in Tyrese Halliburton, certainly the clutchest player for getting this series in the postseason in Tyrese Halliburton, 10 for 11 from the field on game-tying or game-winning shot attempts this season, 90%, which is absurd. Pacers one more win, conference finals, no face Boston or the Knicks, and the way that series is going, if the Pacers could wrap this up quick, they'll be playing a little bit of a battle-scarred Bucks and Knicks team, beat up Celtics or Knicks team. So that'd be a fun series. And if the Pacers get to the finals, don't be shocked. I'll tell you that right now, given the steps they've taken the last couple of years. Okay, now we'll get into our final segment. So NFL schedule is going to come out on Wednesday, which is always one of my favorite NFL offseason dates of the year. Like, obviously, the draft beats everything. Free agency is a close second, and then it's schedule release day. And we've already gotten leaks. The first leak has come out today. It was leaked yesterday and then officially reported by Schefter and ESPN this morning that the world champion, Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles will host their most bitter rival, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, on opening night to start this new NFL season at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia on September 4th. And that will be, I believe, on NBC, who usually does the opening game. So Philly has, I think, to me, clearly the best roster in the league, although Baltimore's not far off. The Commanders aren't that far. What Washington has done this offseason, again, I still don't think they have quite the top-to-bottom roster that Philadelphia Eagles do. What's amazing about Philly is that not only do they not have many weaknesses, but there's few areas on their team where they're not elite. They're elite at wide receiver with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're obviously Saquon Barkley is elite, probably the best running back in the sport currently playing. Offensive line, it's either them or Detroit, best in the league. Either way, elite. It's hard to say Jalen Hurts is not elite at this point, folks. I've been a skeptic at times, and I get there those like, still plays in the system. He needs the running game. A, most do. B, he blew up Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game. No one's ever. Sorry, Brady did that. Allen's never beaten Mahomes in a playoff game, 0-4, for only time that's ever happened in NFL history between two quarterbacks. Joe Burrow got that win, but that was an overtime victory. Mahomes, it was mostly because Mahomes came apart. Let's be real. Lamar Jackson, 0-1 against Mahomes in the playoffs. Can we give Jalen Hurts his love and respect? Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champion, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and played Mahomes tooth and nail the first time, obviously drastically outplayed him the second time, and won in blowout fashion. Jalen Hurts is elite. Defensive line is not only insanely great, but is insanely deep. Interior, defensive line, all of it. I mean, Dallas Goedert is not, by the way, I forgot Dallas Goedert. Not an elite tight end, but he's pretty good tight end. And then secondary, got DeJean and all those guys. Like, you're stacked. And then linebacker, Zach Bond. And so all that being said, give Philadelphia their love and respect, because winning a championship is so hard in sports. And so when you do it, you deserve all the love and credit in the world, unless you're the 2017 Astros. This is the NFL we're talking about. It is any given Sunday or Monday, Saturday, Thursday. I think there was a game Wednesday. There was 2 Christmas games last year on Wednesday. Any given day in the National Football League, something crazy can happen. And I don't know what the line for this game will open as. I would say probably Philly -7.5 or so, like by a touchdown plus. Because again, compare the rosters: Philly, Dallas. I mean, come on. Quarterback, I'll have to say this. Quarterback is closer than you think. I'll give Hurts the advantage, but an ever so slight one. Running back, Philly clears easily. Offensive line, Philly clears easily. Receiving core, Dallas has got better, but Philly still wins. Defense, come on. And then coach, I don't know. We haven't seen Schottenheimer coach a game yet in the NFL. Sirianni, I've had my criticism of him, but he's proven me wrong on a lot of fronts. Sirianni, you have to get the advantage there. If there's one thing I will say going into this game, and we're 4 months out of it. Literally, it's May 12th now. That game's not going to be played until September 4th. If there's one thing that I do know, it is that Dak Prescott is very, very good against the Philadelphia Eagles. Not just very, very good, but elite. In fact, I would say Dak Prescott owns the Philadelphia Eagles. We can show you those numbers over the course of his 9-year career. 24 touchdowns, 8 picks. That's a 3-to-1 TD interception ratio for those checking. Completes about 66% of his passes. That's pretty good. 261 passes per game. That's really good. Pass rating of 100. You'll take that. And he has a record of 9-4. So Dak has been very successful against Philadelphia. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to play him last year because he suffered the hamstring injury, I think, right before their first game against the Eagles in November. And so, but Dak has been great against the Eagles. Dak, I remember the last time the Cowboys opened on opening night was 2021. I was at that game in Tampa Bay against Brady and the Bucs, coming off their Super Bowl. And it took the greatest ever, Brady himself, to lead a game-winning drive to win that one. Dak was awesome in that game coming off of an injury. Well, he's coming off an injury here. It's on the road, new coach, all of it. I'm not saying I'm picking Dallas, but I could see, listen, I've said I did not like the Pickens trade because I think he's going to blow up that locker room just like he did in Pittsburgh because he's a volatile personality. But early on, I think it'll work. Early on, I think he'll have a good deep ball connection with Dak. We know Dak is one of the 3 best deep ball throwers in football. In terms of efficiency, nobody's better. I'm going to miss McCarthy a little bit for Dak's sake because McCarthy was like, hey, Dak, throw it deep. Let Dak cook. Let him throw deep balls. He's great at it. CeeDee Lamb's job will be easier. And so, listen, again, not saying I'm picking Dallas. Probably going to pick Philly. But I'll be curious to see where that line opens. And by September, obviously got to go through training camp, preseason, all of it. Injuries coming into the fruition, even for week 1. But I'll just say this in May. Do not be shocked if the Dallas Cowboys shock Philadelphia on opening night. Doesn't mean they'll be better than Philly. It doesn't mean I don't think Philly's clearly the best team in that division with respect to Washington, who will give them a run for their money. But don't rule out a Dak Prescott special against the Philadelphia Eagles because he has given Philly many of those. He has been very successful against the Eagles in his career. So there you go. I saw that. I was like, listen, kudos to the NFL. I mean, listen, a conventional wisdom would say, hey, it's Dallas-Philly. First of all, it's Dallas at all. Why you put them on the opening night game where it's people are starved for football? You're going to immediately give them Dallas. Bring the defending champions in. That's what they do. Put the Eagles on TV and put them against, maybe a Washington. That'd be a fun opening night game. They're like, nope. We're just going to bam right off the bat. One of the biggest rivalries in the league, Dallas, Philadelphia, defending champions, America's team, bam, 2025 NFL season. Here we go. So like, okay, respect to the NFL. They've got the leeway to be able to do this. It's kind of similar to I think the WNBA starts back this weekend. And kudos to the WNBA and to ESPN. What are the 2 marquee games? The 2 most popular teams, really the most successful teams as of late, Vegas Aces, New York Liberty, the 2 best teams in the league over this period. And then the second game, probably the 2 most popular players. Angel Wilson might be 2, but the 2 most popular players in the league. Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky, Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever, which will be at 3 Eastern on ESPN, following Aces Liberty, which is at 1. Again, so much of sports, man, is just marketing. So much of it is understanding your audience. So much of sports is we have to understand that we are a television show above all. So we are an entertainment product. And by the way, the best are usually the most entertaining, generally. So there you go. All right. That is all the time we have for today's show. I appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up. We'll try and do a show Friday. I can't guarantee that we will. I'll definitely be coming out with some post-game reaction tomorrow to Warriors and Timberwolves, and probably Celtics, Knicks as well. So definitely be on the lookout for that. We'll be putting stuff on the YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram at Carving It Up Podcast, on X at Carving It Up Pod. YouTube, obviously, can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Carving It Up Podcast, and you can subscribe to the Grid Network's YouTube channel as well. We will see you then, everybody. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Draymond, I need a special, man. Go Warriors. Let's go. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.